then I'm not gonna be stressed. So if you wanna leave, then I think that
What's up, Khiry?
What's going on, AK? How's it going?
It's going, friend. It's going. Slow motion, but it's still moving.
Baby, it's moving.
It's moving.
Rolling down my spine. Real slow, but it's going.
It's moving, friend.
It's been
moving.
a long week. A long week for me. How about you? How has your week been?
It's been a week, friend. It's been a long one.
It's been a long week.
It
I
has,
think it
it
might be
has.
one of those things. You know, it's just.
It's been a long time coming. But I know
I know
change don't come.
a change gonna come.
Hey.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
So
Yes,
I'm
it
pretty
will.
sure
Yes, it
everybody
will.
is going through some things. We all got some things to talk about. And today we're going to do what?
We're going to talk about it.
Like we always do.
Absolutely.
Listen, welcome back to another episode of Rainbow Tea with
I'm AK.
and I'm Khiry.
Welcome in, y'all.
We're going to go ahead and talk about it. If y'all have not already, make sure y'all go ahead and follow those tags. That's going to be Rainbow T _ AK _ Khiry. That's going to be at TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. AK, what are we talking about today?
We're going to get into it today, friend.
Oh, we're getting into it. We're going deep.
We're going deep.
We rolling.
We rolling.
Rolling.
This train going to keep on rolling.
Hey, oh, this thing gonna
Keep on
going. All right,
stop.
Listen,
Let's bring it back.
Don't do this. Come on back. Come on.
If you want to leave,
Mm.
go ahead and leave, baby. One thing that you got to find out, you can't have one more, gotta have three.
Oh,
So we talking about side pieces today. Side pieces.
side piece, and we ain't talking about the piece of the track that y'all put to the side. We talking about something completely different. We want to talk about them side pieces in these relationships. One, I just want to know.
Now, Khiry, they say an entree ain't as good without something on the side now.
Now, you know what? I ain't gonna tell you no lie. A meat ain't nothing but the two veggies.
That boy, you gotta have two sides.
You gotta have to listen, like the way that the male pieces sit underneath. Okay, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I was gonna let y'all know a whole lot of stuff. I'll talk about it later. Listen,
I wasn't talking about no biscuits, friend.
You don't want to talk about the
I don't want to
biscuits?
talk about no biscuits or appetizers, but what we want to talk about is these relationships and what we call side pieces.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we give the people who don't know what a side piece is in a relationship, let's define what a side piece in a relationship is.
Ooh, have mercy. I think we might want to pull out a Google on that one, but the urban version is it's just she ain't yours, he ain't yours, but you keep borrowing it. And sometimes you ain't giving it back.
To me, the side piece is the one that only gets communicated with during after hours or times where the main person is nowhere near present. So if you got to be out the house in order to get a phone call, if you can't spend the night, if you ain't got to spend a night bag, if you don't get no holidays,
And you got the day after Valentine's Day?
you a side piece.
You're a side piece.
Yeah. If you don't get no posts, if you can't take no pictures together,
If you can't bring them around family
if
and friends.
the family and friends don't know you,
You might be a
you
side
are
piece.
a side piece. Yeah. I want you to understand that. Now, I think that there's two different types of side pieces. Because there's some of them that are completely okay with being the side piece.
True.
Those people, you don't see them for two reasons. One, they don't want for you to see them. And then two, the ones that's okay with it don't want to be seen. So I think you got two different versions of what a side piece is. Consenting and unconsenting. Now my question would be, or do you want to go ahead and get into exactly what they're offering?
Well, let's push pause for one moment.
Okay.
Because the side piece usually is acknowledged as the side piece. They realize that that person is in a relationship. And when you say they're okay with it, they recognize that that individual is in a relationship. They don't want to be in a relationship with that person, but there's some benefits that they enjoy with that person.
That they don't quite want to.
Right. So their role is a little different. They know their role. They know they know their role. Now, when you're saying, what'd you say, unsolicited and
I think there's consented
and consented. I'm sorry, I'm wrong word. Consented, and then there's unconsented. I think the unconsented ones are just the individuals. They don't have a clue that they are a side piece. In their mind, they're in a relationship. So for me, a side piece is acknowledged. They know their role. They are the side piece.
They're the side piece.
And they have accepted their responsibility with that.
So you would not consider a person who is unaware
that they're a side piece?
That they are a side piece.
They don't. I don't even think that would be a right, because we need a term for them.
Okay.
Because they think that they're in a relationship.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't want to pass off judgment when I say this. But how naive does a person really have to be to think that they are in a relationship, a full relationship, if they are, in fact, the side piece?
We can break that down a couple ways. You think about individuals that meet online. Sight unseen.
Okay.
They are fully emotionally and mentally invested in that relationship. They believe that they're in that relationship. They believe that they have a full-fledged relationship. It's just not physical. But they are emotionally attached. They are mentally attached. And, it's there. It's real. And then you have those. So it's not hard for somebody. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily naive. Excuse me. I just think that it just all depends on how it's presented, how it comes about.
So you believe that, well, obviously, some people are really, really good at manipulating. I think manipulation is very real.
It is.
It's a big thing. And some people can make you believe almost anything depending on, whether or not you are a very free, trusting person. Because you have some people who, they trust you off the bat. You're automatically, you're innocent until proven guilty. As long as you've never lied to me before, I have no reason to believe that you're lying to me or anything of that nature. I completely understand that. And I think that there are a lot of people who take advantage of people like that. Whether you want to say that they're naive or you want to consider them gullible or maybe just a little bit too generous on the trust level. My question, or my stance would be, how far do you go with something like that? I mean, it's only so many times you can go ahead and say, well, I'm not going to be able to make it out there with you today because X and X didn't happen. Or I can't talk to you today, or can't talk to you on the phone because my phone is messed up. Or this is being shipped over, it's going to take too long for this, blah, 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 whatever. How many times are you going to be able to miss the holidays? How many times are you going to be able to postpone not being able to see? So to me, it's like, it's not even just that, but it's also the catfish situation. Because, sometimes you meet people online, have a full-on, relationship with them, and you've never seen them, never spoke to them, never actually met them in person. But you've been going on with this for months on end, So I guess, what would that make you, essentially? If you are in a situation like that, you can't necessarily say they're in a poly relationship because they don't know about it. They're inconsistent. But what does it actually label you?
Played.
When you are in that situation. Played.
That is it sounds kind of harsh. And it is, comical, but it's real. You played. That's the label that you had. You were played, and nobody wants to be played.
Right.
But you've been played.
Just like nobody wants to be cheated on.
Exactly.
Of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard situation for me. And the reason why I would say it's a hard situation for me, because it's one thing for you to be a little bit distant and not know it, because you never really got a chance to actually be really intimate with them, and be able to be close and things of that nature. It's a whole different thing when you are the opposite, when you are actually the main person in a relationship, that you've been there for a long period of time. You feel like you know your person inside and out, things of that nature, but to find out that they actually have a whole nother side piece outside of you. Because at that point, you are still considered played, are you not? You're cheated on, and you have been played. Because you believe that you
I
knew
think
a
it's
person.
just played. I don't necessarily, I can understand from if you're sitting in the seat of being played, then you're going to use terms like, I've been cheated on, I've been this, I've been that. But if that individual was already in a relationship, or they were already entertaining, or whatever it looked like, and they started with you, and things escalated emotionally to where you felt as though you were connected, so then it's not then that person that has no clue who you are is being cheated on.
Being cheated on, correct. But
you don't. That person is in the dark. You're not in the dark, because it's you're in the dark too, because you don't know about them, but they have no clue. So they're being cheated on. You're not necessarily being cheated on. You're sitting in the seat saying you're being cheated on because you didn't know they had another person. Right. But the individual, for lack of better words right now, we're going to say the perpetrator.
The perpetrator, okay.
That's basically what they are. They're perpetrating. They're pretending they're perpetrating to being committed in two different ways with two different people. But neither individual has all of that person.
So
I just feel like we said, side piece. I think side pieces, again, you know your role. You know that you are a side piece.
So we're saying that in order for you to be a side piece, you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, I think so.
So outside of a side piece label, you are essentially just played.
Correct.
You're played unless you are aware. When you are aware, you are then the side piece. And I guess the question now is, what does that make the main? Does that automatically put the main
person? My thing is this, because you have some individuals that seek out people that are in relationships. They don't want necessarily a relationship themselves, but they seek out individuals that, it's almost like a high, I guess, that they seek out individuals that are in relationships, and they're okay. They don't, I think maybe you said it before, they don't want the all day, every day.
Correct.
They want the moments.
Correct.
And they're okay with that, and they can live with that. Then you have individuals that, once they become aware that they were that extra person, they then make a decision like, well, I'm okay with it.
Correct.
So again, you put that label back on yourself again.
And what I wonder is whether or not they're okay with that in general, or are you okay with it for the sake of that person? Because I think that sometimes we put ourselves, or not even put ourselves, but sometimes we find ourselves in predicaments to where I would never in a million years do this, or be subject to this, or feel like this will be okay. But because I completely do not want to be without this person, I'm almost willing to accept and do a lot of things that I would not typically or generally do. So I guess my question would then go back to, if you are a side piece, let's just say, and you're completely content with being a side piece, are you a side piece in general, as in I'm just completely okay with being a side piece and it doesn't matter, or are you just a side piece for a specific person? Is that a thing? Do you feel like it is, are you able to be a side piece for just one person, but outside of that, I will only be the man?
I think it depends on the individual and the situation. And I think, like we touched on it to say, like, if someone is in a relationship with someone and they were totally unaware that this person had a whole another marriage relationship or something like that. And once they were made aware, they made the conscious decision, especially if they had a conversation for this person to say, yes, I've been with this person for 10 to 15 years. My marriage has been 10 to 15 years. I really don't have any intentions on, divorcing, anything like that. That person then makes a conscious decision to say, okay, I'm still willing to accept you and I still want to be with you. I think that's individualized. But then you have some, again, as we said earlier, that's just who they are.
Yeah.
They don't want it unless somebody else already has it.
Now that's another thing.
Yeah,
that's loaded within itself.
Right.
People who literally don't want. That was actually a thing. Even when that dates back to like when you're in school. You notice that there are some people that you're just like you wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. But the moment you realize that somebody else wants them,
then you want them.
Now you want them. I don't know what exactly that is. I think it's something enticing about doing something is not right.
That's just
I think it's one of the. You think that's what it is? Because the reason why I say that is just because you know how, and I would never do that like this now, obviously. But I would say that I have been guilty of, along with a lot of different, friends, different people that I know. But I know people who have had money in their pocket. And they will go down to, a store. They just in the store. They buy stuff, already shopping, things of that nature. But you see a piece of gum. Well, not a piece of gum, but a 35-cent thing of gum. Or maybe a chapstick or something along those lines. And it was something enticing about being able to say, well, I didn't scan this with the rest of the stuff. I'm going to go ahead and walk out with it anyway. Or something enticing about the fact that, I haven't paid for this yet, but I'm going to go ahead and eat it. Why do you think that you actually have enough money to pay for it? They'll buy the expensive stuff directly. But little stuff, they act like, this ain't nothing. Let me go ahead and see if I can get away with just taking the gum, the piece of candy, or the chapstick.
I think the way we're going to say it is like deceit and to being dishonest. Sometimes it's like a drug. People get a rush or a high from that.
I think that the high comes from the thrill.
Yeah, the thrill of it. So the sneaking around, with different people, it's the rush. It's the high
from it. It's a rush that you get from it.
So I feel as though that's why people continue to do things like that, because they're chasing that high, and then sometimes it's just an emotional wound. Some people don't. I don't want to. I'm gonna say it. Some people will rather have someone leftovers or borrowed time just for attention. And sometimes we're so attention deprived to any attention. It's attention. That comes from people being in abusive relationships or any of that, to where there's a healing that needs to take place. To you find some type of self-love and self-worth, to where you realize who you are and there's value in you as an individual, to where you don't really allow yourself to be subjected to things like that. And even if you do encounter it, you know how to come from it.
Wow. That's crazy to me, just because it sounds like what that is a disease. That's self-medicating. Something that you already have going on internally, whether that be a mental, which of course that's more so a mental, but I think that is more so, that's a disease. That's exactly what that is. It's not something that you would actually want to go through and say, especially if that's something that you're doing. But when you sit back and actually get to the root of it, what you are doing is you are trying to make up for something that you lack. You're trying to make up something that you feel like you have lost. You're picking up and you're you're doing things just to be high enough to not have to deal with what you are currently going through, what you have going. Yeah, that to me is a disease.
And I think that's why where relationships of multiples come into play, where you feel as though you don't know how to communicate with who you're with on a level where they understand and there's a level of respect. So instead of you having that conversation, sometimes you would rather go out and have those momentary thrills with other people. And it's just a moment of satisfaction or thrill.
Just for a moment.
Just for a moment. Just for a moment. And then, when everything comes out, let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question, Khiry. So, would you say an individual would have the term as a side piece if they are entering into a relationship with the individual that is getting out of a marriage? So, say you and I are married.
I get you, Sarah. Mm-hmm.
We both know the relationship is over. We are divorcing. Mm-hmm. And in some states, you have to wait out a period of time before it's finalized. Mm-hmm. But we've decided to move on. Mm-hmm. You decided to move on. Mm-hmm. In doing so, you're in another relationship. Mm-hmm. Why would we throw a side piece label on that individual that you decided to move on with?
You want to know? You want to know that based off of like the?
No, I'm just saying. You know, we have labels. I mean, we quick to throw labels on people and things like that. But that person, that's just a side piece. No, that's who he's with.
I think the reason why that is a thing is because a lot of the time when you are going through that process of separation is more so to make sure that is what you want to do. Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, that is I didn't realize what I had until I started leaving, and now I feel like, you have your little fun for the first couple of months, but then you start to revert and second guess and figure out whether or not this is where you really want to be. In that case, you are more so a rebound / side piece, essentially, because of the fact that you really don't know. Now, again, we're going back to the naive, or better yet, when you are to a point where it's like, these people are going to tell you anything at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm over this. I already checked out of it. I filed for the divorce, or I'm going through the process. We're moving out some stuff, things of that nature. And in that phase, anything can happen, because at that moment, you are acting strictly off of emotion. At least that's what I'm going to say based off of what I've gone through. I know you've gone through it as well. You get to a point where it's like, you know it's time to go. But we also know that we're human, and there's things that kind of make you question, make you second guess. Are you making the right decision? You've been in this for a long period of time. Do you really want to start over? Things of that nature. I think that when you go through that process, a lot of people already know that this is something that it's a 50-50 chance. You can make it to the last, or you might actually go ahead and move back towards your home and start back over again. You really don't know.
Well, I'll say this, from my own personal experience and what I learned, even in going through therapy, things of that nature, because I thought something was wrong with me because I didn't feel that.
You didn't feel...
I didn't feel a revert back or wish or longing for, even though I was in something for a long extended period of time, I was already emotionally detached.
But that's because you had a process for that.
But this was the thing. Because you be with someone for a long period of time, a lot of times it's automatic that you got to go back, or y'all going to come back around or something. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times subliminally, that's what's, being fed to you or whatever. And honestly, I thought something was wrong with me. So in my process, what was communicated to me, my therapist was like, each time that you went through something in that relationship,
it was like a breakup already.
It was like a breakup and a death. Mm-hmm. So you go through a mourning through that already. So when you get to that place of saying that this relationship is completely over, and you're going through divorce, all of those things, it's already over. So if you've already allowed yourself to feel those feelings throughout that process, and you come out of it, there is nothing wrong with not feeling like any attachment.
Absolutely.
I don't hate the individual, anything like that, but I don't have any attachment. Yeah. But you would think a lot of times, because a lot of when it comes to relationships or anything, we go off of our environment, what we've seen, who we may know, things like that. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with a friend, and they said something to me that kind of rung out. It was like, you keep saying you're committed. I was committed to my commitment.
Correct.
But I was no longer committed to that person. Because I was no longer in love with them. I was just committed to my commitment of my belief of what marriage was.
Correct.
So I was forcing myself to stay in something because of what I believed it to be.
Same. My situation was more so a matter of I wanted to break what we would call
generational curses.
So my thoughts was that, you know, everybody else has had relationships and they have failed in that nature. I had got to a point where I was kind of the black sheep in my family. I changed everything. You know, I left earlier. You know, you graduate things, you go to college, and you start doing things that essentially your family and other family members did not do.
Correct.
With that being said, I kind of was in my head, I ain't doing this. I'm getting married one time. This is gonna work. You know, there's no such thing as a breakup, things of that nature, blah blah blah, whatever.
Right.
My thoughts on that situation is that I got to a point where I realized, is it taking away a curse, or is it adding another one to stay in a situation that you know is not good for you? If you go through and you stay in a relationship just for the sake of saying, well, you know what, I stayed in my marriage and we pushed on through for 30 plus years and things of that nature, but my thoughts is that your kids or your friends and your family, the people around you that's closest to you, they already know that your relationship is actually horrible. When you are already to a point where you got to sleep in different rooms and you don't call each other and you don't check in and you don't talk to each other and you don't get the butterfly situation when you see them anymore, you dread when their phone calls start to pop up on your screen. If you always got to question where they at and what they doing in their nature, then my thoughts is that you are married to nothing. You don't even have any. You're not even looking forward to it anymore.
And that's when the side pieces come.
Correct. There's no life in your situation, and now you're looking for something to keep that life in there. But you just want to be able to say, I'm still married to this one. But you have no feelings, no emotions, nothing towards that person. The marriage is already dead. And see, my thoughts on the situation was more so just like you. When I separated and I was able to see, because I was able to get acquainted and with somebody that made me feel completely different. You know, was able to show me things in the...
Now, were they a side piece?
You know what? No. And I'm going to tell you why they weren't, though. I'm going to tell you why they weren't. One, once we closed the door, as in, because I signed names off the lease and put people out, literally, that you had all your stuff out, you had no reason to come back or anything of that nature. You already knew. Secondly, the divorce was already filed and things were already going. He was already with somebody else. And so was I. So when the whole thing came, it was a matter of, we already know we're doing this. It's just a matter of, we want to make sure that, at least in my case, you know, there's a such thing as a uncontested divorce. Right. And you know that divorce, like a lot of other things, when you go through it, it's actually public record. So the thought on that was, do I really want everybody to be able to pull up my name, and next to my name, you can go ahead and see exactly what was done to me and why this divorce actually went through a process? Did I really want them to be able to Google that? I didn't. So that's the reason why I waited for the full year and went through that process. I had the evidence sitting on my phone. I could have got divorced in 30 days. But I stuck through it just for the reason of, I'm not going to shun your name, not going to shun mine. I sure don't want this to be the thing for people to be able to go through and look at for the rest of our little history to go through. So we processed it on that way. But with that said, no, I absolutely knew after being able to go through and process and be able to feel feelings that I have not felt in the 10 years that I was in my relationship with another person, I knew for a fact that I was not going back. I knew that was not a healthy situation for me. So like you, I didn't have that drawn situation either. But I think also the longer you have been in a relationship, the longer you go through relationships, obviously that means that that's the longest that you have actually, you've gone through some trials and tribulations in your relationship. You have realized whether or not you were able to withstand those things, or if you were ready to walk away. And if you were ready to walk away on every other occurrence, what the hell was going on, you have absolutely processed that this relationship is
because
over.
in that situation, where for me, mine had a side piece.
Oh,
they thought I was oblivious to it.
Ooh.
But I didn't care.
So were you the side piece at that time?
Maybe I was for them. I don't know.
Because if you don't care,
I didn't. No, what I'm saying
is,
I'm saying getting out of the marriage. That individual had already started entertaining.
In the marriage, like
while we were still married. Yes.
Okay.
Being aware, it didn't bother me.
You know, I think that happened to me too.
I didn't really care.
We might have been.
So it was a side piece part of that scenario. But one thing you said earlier, when you decide to move on, and it's kind of like that, some people, like, you realize what you may have had or didn't have or whatever. I think that's what it was for them. Because then when I moved on, then they wanted to say mine was a disruptor or a side piece. But that was not the case.
Oh, Lord.
So when it comes to side pieces, you are fully aware.
Well, you know, sometimes the side can be different. Depends on what side you look at. Because sometimes you got your right side. Then you got your left side. Then you got a D side. Then you got a reside. But see, all these sides... all these sides are different. It depends on what side you're looking at. My side was to kick him to D side. And it was no more sides left at this point, you know?
But I will say this, like, in past experience, not the current experience, speaking of, but getting out of something, sometimes you don't want a relationship or whatever, and you may be dating, as we've talked about before in the previous conversation, but you get to a place that sometimes be like, that's fine. I'll be a side piece.
I think it's human nature. I think
you put whatever label you want on it.
Correct. But I think it's human nature that when you go through certain things, when you're in a situation, especially for a long period of time, it's a natural thing for you to fear not wanting to go back into the same thing. And because I feel like you never really truly know a person, like how how they would say you know them, how you would say you want to know them. I think that it takes you a long while to realize the limits of where your person will go. And with that being said, we also know that relationships are not meant to be perfect or have that perfect feeling throughout the whole duration. You're going to get some time where it's going to be 3 months, 6 months. Hell, sometimes you go the first 2 years and be in bliss. But we all know that honeymoon phase, it ends. And you'll get to a point where it is in a reality situation. I think that you kickstart it a little bit faster when you move in with each other to that nature. It's a little different when you are living apart and when you have limited time because y'all both working 80 hours a week, so maybe you only see each other or stay the night together on the weekends, whatever situation.
I'm sorry, y'all got 80 hours.
Sorry, not 80 hours. I'm sorry, 80 hours between the two of y'all. My apologies. The math wasn't mathing on that.
It wasn't free.
It's 40 hours.
New math.
It's 40 hours a piece. The reason why I say 8 is because I feel like some people, if you get to a situation where you a day shift person and they're a night shift person, now y'all pretty much are conflicted on y'all schedules already. So you know you ain't see each other on that day. So some people actually only see each other once or twice a week. And when you are in a situation like that, your honeymoon phase lasts a little longer because you are not up under each other as much as other people will. So I think sometimes, you can go a little bit longer or it could be a little bit shorter depending on, what your circumstances are.
I feel that.
With that, though, I would say that it's a fear when you have been in a long relationship for a long period of time and you have been able to experience all of those seasons. You get into another situation and now you put people on pause. Because you feel like, okay, well, let me not get too close to this. Let me not get too comfortable with the situation because my last situation, it might have been a year went by or 2 years went by and then the whole thing flipped. So I think naturally, even though we say you want to go ahead and let go of anything that happened prior to because this current person has nothing to do with what happened prior to, right? We all can say that they don't have anything to do with it. However, I think it's a human nature to more so shield and guard yourself, put the pause on certain things, and start to make you question and make you think. And I think that that's the reason why a lot of people decide after they've been in a long situation, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't give too much, don't go into this on this hand. Maybe I should go ahead and just kind of stick to the side. Don't want nothing real serious right now because I don't want to go through the same thing that I've gone through before. I think it's just a fear. It's a process of a fear. But I do think that you're right. Me, personally, I never wanted to be a side piece. But I can say that I did have pause on whether or not, and to be quite honest with you, I mean, even now, I still have pause on whether or not, do you actually want to be able to say, you know what, forget it. I'm in a full-fledged relationship now. So I'm stuck on this. I'm putting everything into this. All your eggs in one basket of nature. It's a fear because it's something that you don't want to do again.
What about individuals that you've like you mentioned being married, you did a divorce, you both moved on, and I think you said in the previous episode as well about having those twin flames. So then this person's still in a relationship, and then they come back around, and because y'all familiar, things start happening, you start creeping. So then you're a side piece, where you once was married to this individual, but now you're a side piece, because you are aware.
You are aware.
So what happens then?
Well, my challenge to you, I would actually question whether or not people even consider themselves as being a side piece if they already feel it. Because a lot of people feel like if I had them first, I'm not the side piece.
But technically, I'm saying we talking about labels of putting titles and labels on people of a side piece. So if you are not in a straight up relationship, committed relationship, exclusive, and you know that this person is with someone else, you are a side piece. Whether you have them first or not, especially if their current status is I'm in a relationship, and you start entertaining, you are a side piece.
I think technically you are correct. Yes. I think that morally, as you walk around in the world, I don't think that people consider themselves that way. And I'm just talking about literally just in
they don't.
In general. I don't think that they look at it that way when they've had them prior to. I think that they look at it as I had them first.
But what ends up happening is a lot of times, even say if the individual finds out who they're currently with, they find out that they've been creeping with the ex.
Correct.
Ex-spouse. A lot of times the ex-spouse is like, I don't want them.
This is true. Don't want them like that.
I don't want them. Y'all good. I don't want to be in a relationship with them. I know what they come with. Y'all working. But this is the crazy part. Why would you do that to that person?
Because it's been done to you. I think a lot of people operate off of an eye for eye, tooth for tooth situation. And the crazy part about it is that the other person has nothing to do with it at all.
Nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it at all. But I think that people, I think this is a human nature. This is people in general. I think you get to a point where you develop.
It's amazing how people and what they turn into based on hurt.
Based off of your own pain and your own experience.
Because what's interesting to me is we know what pain and hurt feels like. But yet we become the perpetrators of the very thing that we say hurt us. That's a whole nother topic. That's somebody's couch.
That's a couch session.
That's a couch. Yeah, you got
again. What we talked about earlier. That is a disease. Yeah. That's what it is. And I think a lot of people. I think if we looked at it that way, it would be painful. So the reason why people don't, because it's a mirror that's pointing directly at you.
Well, you got. I mean, I don't understand.
Reflection.
Hey, you're gonna get back what you put out.
You are gonna get that back regardless. And that's another thing. I believe that people think that karma, once it's been done to you, it gives you a right to do it to somebody else. And that's not how that works, friend.
No, not at all.
Just because something has been done to you does not mean that you do not get a karma back for doing it to somebody else.
To someone else, right.
See, the thing about karma is that that's individualized karma. So that karma is going to be for that person. Granted, sometimes you can be collateral damage. Because when you get cheated on initially, if you have not done anything and you just got cheated on, that cuts deep.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times you probably question to yourself,
Absolutely.
Why? Why me? Why did this
Absolutely.
happen to me?
Absolutely.
What was the reason I didn't do anything or anything of that nature? So when you go back and do it, you're just like, well, I guess, I already paid for this karma. That's not how that works.
Right.
Karma is not a thing we can go ahead and
you get a pass
on leadway. You
don't
get a pass for that.
You get a pass.
You don't get a double jeopardy. Well, I already paid for this,
No.
so I ain't gonna have to pay for it again.
No.
That's not how that works, friends. But I think that a lot of times people believe that that's how that works.
Well, some people believe in side pieces though. And some people are okay with it.
And some
there are relationships that are okay. I can remember a conversation of someone. They were okay with their spouse going out and having fun for a period of time. Then when he got tired of it, he was like, okay, you need to bring yourself on home. And I don't want you doing it anymore. But I think that's, I don't know, it's a strong conversation though.
It is, because I feel like that takes us into the
let me say, I don't think it's an open relationship. I think it was more so that they were going through some things in their relationship, and that individual was not able to fulfill in a particular way, and the other person felt slighted in some way. So it was a conversation that they had, and they were in agreement that you can go out now. You couldn't go out and be with just whomever, whenever, however. It was selective, and if that was your person, your go-to, it was just that one individual go-to person.
But you could go to that person whenever?
Yeah.
Is that not considered a polyamorous?
Well, I don't think it's a poly relationship because that person was not invited in for both.
For both of them.
For both. The difference with the poly is both parties are in agreement of that other person. And that person is a part of their everyday life.
So with that still would be a selective open relationship. You're able to do it with one individual person?
Well, I guess for me, open relationship is
broad open. That's why I said selective.
Like, yeah, very, very
it's
wide
not
open.
Broad,
yeah.
But it gives you one out. It gives you one person that you can have relations with, which is still technically, you have a double relationship. If it's more than one, it's a poly relationship. So it's like a...
Well, I think that, no, it's not a poly relationship
so
because
crazy.
The poly relationship, I mean, that's a whole nother subject.
It says that you have three.
It
says that you technically have three. Let's just go ahead and say, but if you are a third party,
all parties are mutually involved.
But this is a one person who has a past with their main person, and
no, they're still currently in this relationship.
They are in a relationship.
Their agreement was that one individual was seeking more than that person could give them at that time, sexually. Let me say that. So they had an agreement for one person that was that person's choice that they were entertaining. But they didn't do...
Does the entertained person, do they know about the situation?
They knew they were the side piece. They didn't want to be a part of their relationship. They didn't want to be a part of their everyday. It was just however it looked for the two individuals involved outside of that marriage. So it wasn't a poly relationship because they all were not in a relationship together.
But they all were aware.
But they were all there was acknowledgement of both. I don't really think that the married person knew as much about the side piece. Probably that the side piece knew about them because of their encounters with the individual. But it was just, and they were okay with being a side piece.
I need somebody that's watching this. I'm gonna need for y'all to go ahead and send us in exactly if this is you or you have a name for this situation, because I would love to know. Because everybody has their own situations, obviously.
True. Very true.
It's a very judge-free zone. It's more so a matter of seeking understanding. This is something that people would probably misspeak on because they would not know. Mm-hmm. And technically, it may not even be a well-defined name for it, or maybe the both of us are right. It could be something in between. It could be a little bit of both. I'm not really sure. But I would love to know exactly how this whole operation works, essentially. Is there a name for the situation? Is there a start and a stop time situation? Like, how does this whole thing work?
Well, in this particular isolated situation that I'm aware of, there kind of was a start and a stop.
So there was.
So the spouse got to a place to where they were like, okay,
I need
enough.
to go ahead.
Enough is this is enough. have you had your fun, so to say, whatever. And he was like, yay, pretty much, whatever. But I don't think that there was, in that situation, I don't really think it was emotional attachment so much as that person just being that outlet. Because I don't even think the relationship was fully sexual. I think it was more so the companionship or being able to be sexual, just different things.
That makes it worse. So, and they were able to do this without.
They were able to do that and move on.
Wow. Okay.
I was just like you. Wow.
I was the only reason why I was in wow is because that tells me that you have to have some type of that's a connection and not specifically a sexual connection. That means that you have an actual connection with that person. And when you have a good connection with a person, it's something that you don't necessarily want to let go of. It's kind of one of those things where you have
their response. The person that was able to be let free, so to say, their response was, "I built the life with my husband, and we have a connection and understanding that I'm not willing to allow anything or anybody to take that away from me." Mm-hmm. These moments of where I may have been a release or this, that, that. So my question was, okay, why not go to counseling or why not some type of therapy or something like that? But everybody is different. Everybody's different. It worked for them. It worked for them, and they were able to move on and continue to be who they are.
It's great because I think that was for a lot of people.
I would say for me, it opened my eyes to look at things a little bit differently, because again, you would think that individuals to do that, like you just gonna allow them to go out there and cheat. That's the first thing you think about.
Well, is it cheating though?
Right, but I'm just saying, initially you say, you gonna let them go out and cheat, or why was that even okay, or blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't so much, like I said, it wasn't so much just a physical relationship. There was other things. Now, I would say me as an individual, it's levels to it.
Okay.
Because you can be physically attracted to somebody. Mm-hmm. You could be emotionally attracted to somebody. You know what I'm saying? I say stimulated and mentally stimulated. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times that means more to people than actually the physical part. Because sometimes you can be physical with somebody and walk away and not feel nothing.
That's correct.
So when that situation with them, I was like, but how are you able to invest time and open up and share things with this person and then still be able to just cut it off like that?
It's a good question. I ain't never tried it. I don't think I would ever be able to do it, but who knows? So it's a good question. Again, I would love to know. This is the kind of thing we need to hear about.
Ready.
We need for y'all to go ahead and send some stuff in, baby. You can always send us in any topics, any comments, anything that y'all actually want to elaborate on, want to talk about any further. Make sure you send that in to rainbowt_AK_Khiry. And you can send it at Gmail. So we can send stuff in our email, but you can also go ahead and send it into our Instagram or our Facebook. Just send us in some stuff and let us know, because we're going to talk about it. We want to know.
We want to talk about it.
And the people want to know.
I would like to know your feedback. We welcome all feedback, even on the conversation of what is a side piece. Enlighten us.
Please do.
Good conversation.
We don't know it all. We sit back and we go off of everything based off our own heads and what we have, our own experiences. And the friends that we know, the family we know, we base everything off of what we actually experience. But everybody's experience is different, as we talked about earlier. So you may know somebody or know something or have experienced something and had a completely different result. And we want to hear about it.
We want to hear about it.
We want to hear about it. We also want to thank you guys for tuning in again with us for another episode. We are here every week, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. We're going to be on every platform. We got some lives coming up, some Q&As. So we just want to make sure y'all go ahead and send in everything that y'all can.
Follow us on those social media pages so you can keep those updates. So we look forward to it.
Look forward to some more surprises. We got some things coming in store. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up on today. AK, do you have anything else to say to people?
I don't have anything. Y'all be safe. Much love.
We'll see y'all next time.
All right.
I decided today that I'm not gonna be stressed. So if you wanna leave, then I think that it's best.